Hey guys, Trav back, and I think in today's video we're going to be making a neat little sugarcane farm. This is the one I use in my world. There's a bunch of different ways of doing them, but this is just one I like, and it uses a flying machine. So we're going to incorporate some of the things we've discussed on that flying machine tutorial. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go back and watch that discussion about flying machines, and I can link it in the description. So we'll work on our we'll work on a sugarcane farm, and then kind of in the future, as a result of this video, I'm going to then later upload a video on how I use a minecart unloader on the PlayStation. That's 100% reliable for unloading minecarts. Um, so that's going to come out, and then we'll probably work on a couple other different food farms and crop farms, and then we'll start going into villager farms, and then later on down the road we'll get into more advanced farms. So those are some of my plans upcoming. So if you're interested in any of those things on PlayStation 4 Console Edition, make sure you subscribe so you can see upcoming videos such as that. So anyway, let's get into this. First thing you need to do when you're thinking about this is the floor plan you want. And I know that this farm is going to be collected using minecarts. Okay, so for that to happen, it's usually much easier to have the set up the minecart collection system first, because that's going to be underneath the farm. So let's start with that. Okay, so let's do this. I think my farm is going to be 5 wide. Okay, so let's start this, and we can make it as long as you want. That's the nice thing, because this is going to be a flying machine farm, so we can make this as long as we want. All right, so on one end it's going to go, let's say on this end it's going to go into a it's going to be unloaded on this end. All right, so this end is going to loop back, and it's going to go to the beginning of the farm. So on the middle, what we could do is we could make these middle blocks powered rails. And usually on console, like I've tried using like detector rails and powered rails, but they seem to feed across to the one next to them. So I find it best just to do this. And then kind of come up with your floor plan like this. And we're going to want this thing to be 5 wide. So we'll go again. Something like this. And then it'll end on this run. There we go. And let's have this one end over here. Okay? So on the end, we're going to want a block here, or a block and a powered rail, and let's go ahead and put a lever on it. So we can turn this on and off remotely. Okay, so we're going to need some redstone to make this thing work. So let's grab some blocks. Let's just go to about the middle here and knock these out like that. Oh, we got to replace that line with powered rails. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, cool. So we've got that. So now what we need to do is we need to set up the floor for where the farm's going to be. So the height of this thing is going to be, it's going to be right here. It's going to be right above it. Just like that. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and fill all this in, and it's going to go all the way to wherever we want this thing to end. So let's go to, about there. That way everything's being collected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this in, and we'll come back. Okay guys, we're back, and I've got the floor pretty much done. So I want to show you what I've done so far. Like I said, you're going to make the the grass block floor to cover up your train rail collection system, so all the way around the rails. And then you're going to go all the way around it with whatever building block you want of your choice. Okay? And then what you need for the water, I knock out every other block. Okay? And then I put a bottom slab of some kind of slab that I want, just like this. Okay? Until all of them are done. That way, every block is grass block is touching a water block. And then you're going to have to go through here and water them all. So put your water buckets up against the side of those grass blocks. And it's important that you don't update these at all by pouring water over them or putting a block over them or anything, because then that's going to cause the water to leak through on the PlayStation Edition. So you're going to go through here and waterlog each of these slabs. Just like this. And obviously now you can see those building blocks on the outside are holding in the water, so it's important to have that. There we go. And then at this point you could build whatever kind of wall of your choice and go up, let's go up 4 high. And then let's wall in everything but the ends for now. We're going to go ahead and wall in everything but the ends. So all on these lawn sides, we'll wall all these in. And this is pretty important because as your flying machine goes across the sugarcane, it's going to be important to hold in all the sugarcane so it doesn't fall. And I like to take some kind of lights and kind of space them out here. So let's do, that looks about center. So maybe something like this. Yeah. And then to add some detail, maybe you have a different kind of material, accent the lights. You know, something like that. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish this and we'll come back. Alright guys, we're back. Now, we've got this thing walled in. Floor is done, the collection tracks are in place, and the walls are done. So let's go ahead and get our flying machine in place. Okay? So we obviously need to keep the stalks. They need to regrow, so we can't have the flying machine break it at ground level. So we need to build this thing one above ground level. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll start with the end of the flying machine just like that. We're going to need some slime blocks. Here we go. So let's do 1, 2, 3 to connect those. So now that's one push bar that's going to be breaking all the stalks. Let's get some power on this, just like this. And let's get our sticky pistons right here. Now, if you remember from my flying machine tutorial, all what a flying machine is sticky pistons, diagonal sticky pistons and diagonal slime blocks. That's all it is. And you can do it vertically. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to have a slime block here. And let's reach underneath this and put that sticky piston just like that. Because then all we need to do here, now to update this sticky piston, we're going to need an observer like this. Oh, shoot, there it goes. Yeah. Alright, let's get an immovable block here. Bring this thing back. Gotcha. Alright guys, we're back. Now we've got the walls in place, the floor's done, and the minecart rails are set up. So now let's go ahead and make the harvesting flying machine. Okay, so we're going to want this 2 blocks up from the ground, so that way we leave the bottom of the stalk so that they can regrow. So let's put the flying machine, this is the bar that's going to be harvesting everything. And then we're going to want an observer powering a sticky piston right here. Now, if you remember from my flying machine video, a little while back, and I'll link it in the description. All a flying machine is, an observer one, the basics are 2 diagonal sticky pistons and 2 diagonal slime blocks, and they could be vertical or horizontal. So just like that. Now, before this thing takes off on us, let's go ahead and put some obsidian in to hold her steady while we build, just like that. Alright, so now to do this part, we're going to need an observer facing into this slime block here. And we're going to need one on top, like this. And that's going to send this thing back when it gets to the end. Okay? So there's our flying machine. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need a detector so that we can, well, actually we need to send this flying machine back 1. As you can see, that part's actually covering up the plants. So let's send it back 1. There we go. So that's where we want this thing to stop. Okay, so we need a detector. So let's cover up the slime blocks with some obsidian here. And let's get some observers. And we want this thing to, we want this to come fly harvest when as many of these are 3 high as possible. So full growth. So for this to happen, we also want some redundancy. So let's knock out this block and this block. Perfect. And let's put some observers in. Just like that. So now these observers are going to see, hey, these stalks are 3 high at either this one or this one. It's time to harvest. Okay? So we're going to need to run the power back. Just like this. And the way we want this to update down here, to make this simple, is we want to send the power to a piston that updates this observer. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get a regular piston here. We have a piston in place, so when this piston's energized, this thing is going to fly forward. Okay? And there's a couple ways you could do this. One way you could do this is just using dust. So if I were to do, I could do dust all the way across like this, have it into a block in the corner because it looks cool, and I could power this this block just like that, and that would work just fine. So if I were to block this off up here, now it could fly once. I update these observers, and it goes. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. You could use a rail if you don't want the lag. Let's figure out that real quick. If you want to save a couple pieces of dust, because obviously dust provides lighting updates, which creates lag. So what we could do is we could have those observers power these rails, and let's have an observer here detect when that rail's powered. And then what we could do here is we could even have an observer like that. So you can do it that way too, if you want. So either way works, whatever you fancy. We'll test this. Yep, works. Send that back. We're good to go. Okay, so for the other side, let's grab our normal piston, and we're going to have on the other side, this top observer is going to charge a piston on the other side that's going to extend, updating this observer to send it back. It's going to stay at rest there. So we need to go way down here, and we need to have this thing at this height. So that should be good. So if we've tested this correctly, it's going to stop right here in the middle. And I want obsidian where the slime blocks are, so that I know don't place a regular block there later on. So let's test this. So we're going to send it. And I want to make sure that it harvests the last couple stalks. Right there. Okay, perfect. And it goes back. Just like that. Okay, and that's the basics right there. So all you need to do now, is put in all your sugarcane. Oh, so let's see. Where do they put that in creative? Ah, right here. Okay, so put in all your sugarcane like this, and all the way across. And then whatever you want to do to cover it up is fine. Just obviously you can't put a block at this height. Okay, a normal building block, so it's got to be at this height. Okay, guys, we're back. A couple things I did here is I finished the roof. Whatever you want to do to make it look good is up to you. Throw a couple lights in there. I gave it kind of a skylight section here. But you want to kind of enclose this thing as much as you can to keep as much of the sugar cane that is broken by the fine machine over the floor instead of bouncing out. So that way the cart can pick it up. Okay, so enclose your roof. On my survival world, I actually have this stacked with my melon and pumpkin farm above it. But, you know, whatever you want to do is good. Just remember, you can't put a block right here on top of where the slime block's going to be. So at that level, you can have blocks. And so you obviously can't have one here either. And you don't want to have any in front of the observers. Okay? And then for the ends, just fill the end in however you can to keep as much sugarcane inside as possible. So, you know, and this part is completely up to you guys how you do this. But I want obsidian here because of the slime blocks. So I can enclose that like that. Don't want to get anything in front of that there. I can put a glass block here. Here. And I can close this in a bit here. And that just keeps as much sugarcane as possible. And it looks like I can also pull in here. That just keeps as much sugarcane as possible inside. In fact, I could pull in here too. Okay, just like that. And then on the other end, we've already blocked where the slime blocks are going to hit. So that means I could do here. I could do all of this from the looks of it. There. Now it's all closed in. So all the sugarcane is going to be accessible from the minecart system, which is going to be, the unloader is going to be in my next video today. It's going to be uploaded pretty much at the same time as this one. So make sure you go to that one, because I want to really get into how I get these minecarts to unload on the PlayStation. Because the PC versions don't really work very well on PlayStation. So I'm going to get into that and show you a 100% reliable minecart unloader. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe so you can see that video as well. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about this, as you start building more farms that use flying machines, or you have flying machines doing things on your world, you're going to want to make sure you're not using autosave. Okay, because the autosave function is produces the same problem as if you unload the chunks where there's flying machines, because when these pistons are extended and they're moving, that's going to lead to problems and it's going to break machines. Okay, so try to start getting out of the habit of using autosave when you're using farms like this, and just regularly save your game manually. Okay, so that's the farm. I think it looks really cool. It's like a little greenhouse. It's very effective. You're going to get a ton of product which you can craft into paper and use for fireworks or trading or what have you. And it's awesome. It's an absolutely fantastic farm. So stay tuned for the unloader, and stay tuned for future farms on this channel. Make sure you subscribe. Other than that, guys, have a great week. This is Trav, over and out.